Right. So from losing to Afghanistan, the USA, Ireland, not chasing 120 against India, losing to New Zealand's D team, Pakistan have done the most Pakistan thing, beating Australia in Australia, and I can only describe this as Kudrat ka Nizam.
Oh
As Sinclair
yes,
Mushtaq
so
said,
right.
there is summer, there is winter, there, and there is Kudrat ka Nizam. And before, I'm going to shut this point straight away. Before people get into Pakistan beat Australia's EFG team, the first two ODIs was pretty much their full strength team. Yes, the third ODI was not their strongest team, but it's also the manner of the victory that really makes a difference. It's not against New Zealand D where Pakistan limped to a 2-2 draw or whatever it was. So let's nip that in the bud straight away, although I'm sure Moeen will want to get into that.
Well, I
But there's
mean,
also more stuff to discuss with the PCB and BCCI. We'll get to that in the end. I'm sure some of you would be keen to hear our thoughts on that. But for now, let's enjoy and revel in the glory of Pakistan cricket. 22
right.
years.
You know, there are three things that are certain in life: death, taxes, and Pakistan. One minute down, next minute up. Unbelievable comebacks and unbelievably unpredictable. I mean, there's nothing. I used to say there are three things: death, taxes, and Pakistani middle order collapses, because there was a rhyme to it. But I need to replace the last bit with the more common occurrence of Pakistan just being so unpredictable. I mean, it's a terrific victory. I look. I mean, I have to say hats off to Mohammad Rizwan. Now, as I've always maintained that I'm not a results merchant. Okay, so I backed Chan Masood for a lot of his 7-8 drought and victories for 7-8 games. But with Mohammad Rizwan, it's not just that he won, right? It could have also been just the team he had, but I think he led very well. And you know, look, I semi agree with you on the fact that it was a near full strength Australian side, because I did think it was missing Travis Head and Mitch Marsh. And I know it's just two players, but it's two players that formed the backbone of the modern Australian ODI batting lineup. I mean, do I think Marnus Labuschagne belongs in the ODI setup when you've got a full strength team and you've also got Smith? I'm not sure. So a few things there, but bowling wise, full strength side. Lower order, full strength side. Maxwell was very much there and failed all three accounts, right? To Haris Rauf. The third one day international, obviously, yes, was the most depleted Australian team I've ever seen. I didn't recognize more than half the players. But as you say, it's the manner of victory, right? It's not like it was a really low, like close thriller. It was an 8 wicket emphatic win, right? So you can't control the team you're playing against, but what you can control is how you set a statement, right? So if you're going to play a B, C, D team, which even other teams do, then thrash them, and that's what happened. But the most impressive was the one that was on my birthday, so great birthday present. Um, is when Pakistan thrashed Australia in that second game. That second game, which was again near, as you said, nearish full strength, especially on the bowling side, and Pakistan were fantastic. And to be honest, even in the first game, right, they came quite close to pulling off that defense. So it could have easily read 3-0. But anyways, 2-1, well deserved.
No, I completely agree. And belated happy birthday and the perfect birthday present to you. I think I messaged you early morning your time when Australia were 87 for 5, I think, at that time. And I was
And we
like,
were hoping,
I hope.
hoping that it's not going to be a classic number seven, number eight, highest record partnership against any team, obviously against Pakistan,
Yeah.
but it wasn't to be. We cleaned up that tail.
Yeah. Well, Zampa did have a go a little bit, but yeah, I think 160 was more than controllable. So I think that was well done to Pakistan for that. And also, let's get into a bit of the specifics. You mentioned the first ODI. And I think that's where the tone was set. I don't want to get into negatives and comparing it to the previous captaincy regime and all of that. But and if you look at the whole the sequence, across the three ODIs, apart from your four fast bowlers, Saima was the only one who bowled 3 overs, right? Because you really didn't need to go into in any game. You didn't need to go beyond 40 overs or 45 or whatever it was. even though the first ODI, Rizwan went for the kill. He's like, I'm going to bowl out my four fast bowlers because this match will not last beyond over number 40. So there was no random bowlers coming in, to letting the batters settle in. I mean, if Mohammad Irfan, or Irfan Khan Niazi, you're wondering
Not at all.
why you're there just for that one failed attempt to save a six dramatically. But I think apart from that, he was a bit of a passenger. But I mean that's professional cricket, right? So I think that approach where he went for the kill every time, using his four fast bowlers, using them well, that was phenomenal. And I think that to the credit of the fast bowlers, all of them stepped up. When record Naseem was a bit expensive, I think across, especially in the context of the score lines. I think he went for 65 when the team was out 160, and even the third ODI he went for like six and over or something. But Hasnain was really good, even though he didn't get too many wickets, but he was, at least in the last ODI, he did really well. And Shaheen, of course, good to see him doing good things with the ball with out swingers, not just in swingers. I think the whole balance, it just seemed to work. You can credit the captaincy, the field positioning. I mean, it was really good to see Rizwan going for the kill, having short legs and four slips and all of that.
Yeah,
Maybe an
yeah.
overkill at times, but still, I think it's just good to see
I
that he was
totally agree.
trying things.
I totally agree. And when you think about this, just place yourself in the bowler's shoes. When a captain gives you that feel, it will inspire you, right? It'll make you feel confident, right? Your captain backs you to take these wickets, right? He has given you a clear signal. I don't care how many runs you go for. I know you are my wicket taking man, and I will easily trade 12, 15 runs for a wicket, right? That's the message. And that's a very positive message for a bowler, especially a strike bowler. And we've got, when they are on song, a good battery of them, right? It's like saying, look, I trust you to have that control. Even if you don't, I don't care because I am after wickets and I know you're my man, right? So it's not just the placements, it's the message it sends, right? So yes, you're right. In a couple cases, maybe there was a bit of overkill, but with that overkill, it was just giving bowlers more confidence as well. Wow, my captain was really backing me, and you feel that as a fast bowler, that's what you want. As a leg spinner, where we don't have any at the moment, but that's what you want. Captains that back you to take wickets. So, so I definitely think Rizwan did an excellent job, and I was most impressed actually with the first game, even though we lost it. When you're chasing 200 and something, or so when you're defending 200 and something, it's one of those where I can easily imagine a previous captain saying, "Oh, I don't want to run all of them out. Chalo, I'll give 2-3 overs of spin in the middle." This one's like, look, this is not going to 50 overs. These
Yeah,
we're maximum going to get to 40. These are my four fast bowlers. If we are to win the game, it can't even get to 40 overs, right? It needs to be finished in 30 if we need to get all wickets, unless it becomes really close. But I'm going all out, right? And it's just that fresh perspective. Sometimes it's the baggage that gets to captains, right? It's the baggage of what if it goes wrong? What if I get to over number 41 and I'm like, what do I do? And everybody starts laughing at me, right? It's that
yeah,
insecurity. What will other people think? The famous South Asian catchphrase of all time, right?
yeah.
But
What will people
Rizwan,
think when I'm giving Mohammad Nawaz the last over, right?
yeah, yeah. What will people think about that? It doesn't matter. If you're gonna win, you're gonna win, right? And it needs to be with them. So really well done to him. Also, the unorthodoxy of those field placements. Like I remember seeing a field placement that had this weird, what is it, a 45 short, like just a fly slip, maybe. I don't know what you want to call it, but you had these positioning that was aimed at the fact that your fast bowlers are bowling short. So often he gets the top edge. It's too much for the keeper, but it doesn't fly to third man or deep
Yeah,
square leg. You need somebody just about in the middle, just for that precise circumstance when it happens. When it goes over the keeper's head for four, but it could so easily be a catch if you have somebody placed in that really unconventional,
yeah,
placing. And he tried that. He knew what he was wanting to do, right? So I give him full marks. I like that he's on the move. He's aggressive. And it's also reflecting his batting. I still think he's one position too high. I'm going to keep saying this, but I hope he's going to prove me wrong um, uh, 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 as we go on. It's just because I also think Kamran Ghulam is a top order player, right? I
Yeah.
just think if you're going to make him debut, don't make him switch his positioning and his because number five, it's a very delicate position in ODI cricket, right? It's somebody who can also be a real enforcer and hit out. Kaman Ghulam is more of your conventional style. So I don't know. That's my perspective. But I'm glad you brought up the bowling, right? Because that's what we should be talking about. I'll make two comments and then I'll just like to get your perspective on the wider thing, right? The first is Naseem Shah. Okay. He is, at the moment, the flag bearer of our bowling attack after Shaheen and Haris have had disappointing returns. My gut tells me he has a lot of potential, Naseem Shah, but he's still too young for that mantle, right? I just think he's searching for those magic deliveries all the time. He's trying too hard. He's remembering that Melbourne bowling spell when he's trying to recreate that. And I I just hope there's someone there, no better person than Jason Gillespie, right? Because he's a fast bowler, just to calm him down a little. Because he was far too expensive in that second game. In the first game he was good, but again he had a bit of that slight injury scare, so there's a bit of fitness there. I wonder again, that's another symptom of somebody trying too hard. These little things. So I'm keen to get your perspective on Naseem Shah. Is he overrated? I don't know. That's a question that I have at the back of my mind sometimes too. um the other is Hasnain. Hasnain is someone I feel very hot and cold about because I felt he was really bad in that first one day international. I get the sense Mohammad Hasnain is that sort of player who bowls brilliantly when he has less pressure. And there's always less pressure when you're bowling first because you're not defending a score, right? You're not responsible for winning. But in that first game when we were defending a low total, I feel his brain gets a bit scrambled when he's under pressure. That's my worry with him, right? Also, remember the third game had a more depleted Australian batting lineup. So, you know,
Yeah, look, I think on the first point on Naseem, I mean, at the end of the day, he did take wickets, right? So if you look at it, yes, he went for runs, but you don't mind that in the whole context because he was always taking wickets. And to be fair, he was unlucky. There were a couple of dropped catches of his
true,
bowling as
very
well,
true. Yeah.
which seems to happen a lot to him. So, so there is that. Yes, fitness is an issue. I mean, that's partly just a general issue in Pakistan cricket anyway. Um, I'm surprised actually they actually went with all four fast bowlers in 3 games, especially the second and third because the gap was so less. But look, for him, I won't say Naseem Shah is overrated. I think he is fairly rated. He is, I think he's probably gone down in terms of his ratings a notch. He's not at the same level as he was in 2022. He was dropped for the Test series, so I think it's uh, it's a fair reflection. I think yeah, it's okay when the others are doing as well as they are to have one bowler who is going for runs but is still taking wickets. So I would, and I think with the new ball, he's been much better and probably much more consistent than Shine Afridi over the past year or so. So that's one thing that does go to his credit. And
Mhm.
I mean, you talk about bowling that magic delivery. I think he did bowl one. Was it to Sean Abbott, which was probably the ball of the series, which ended up
Yeah. Excellent
being a
ball.
dot on the scorecard. But still, so he does have that in him. Hasnain, yeah, look, he is erratic. I mean, he's got that in the PSL. I think the problem with him is he's still, in my mind, a T20 bowler. He's not an ODI bowler. Yes, on his stats, what was impressive were his stats in the last ODI, again, a depleted squad, but it's the economy, right? He went for under three or just three and over with a couple of boundaries of edges as well. So I think, he probably still needs to improve, be consistent. Like you said, maybe it is when he starts getting hit around, he does, his head gets scrambled and he starts spraying it all over the place. Or maybe it was just the first ODI. He got excited, looking at the pitch and the bounce and all of that, which tends to happen. So it could be a mix of those things. But yeah, I still think he has a place. Maybe he needs to work on his fitness or his consistency to be a longer term part of the ODI squad. With the Champions Trophy coming up, we'll come on to that later. But I think yeah, for T20s, he's someone you can give him. You can be part of a rotating squad. Maybe not in the ICC Championship, but for bilateral series, I think he can be there and thereabouts because he does still have that knack to take wickets.
Yeah. my only, yeah, and perhaps it's also because he hasn't been able to cement his place, so he feels
Yeah,
a bit insecure, which is also something that gets to him, right? It's been a while since
yeah,
he's been the outskirts, the fringes. He's had injury issues, and he's
yeah,
just been outperformed by others in the past, right? So I understand that, right? It's a difficult position. It's just, when you already have three strike bowlers, Hasnain's role becomes a bit unclear. Now you could go with all four strike bowlers, that's fine, and that's what you can do in places like Australia. But and this is why I'm glad you brought up Champions Trophy. I just think one, you need more spinning options in Pakistan, and two, you need someone who can just buy a bit of control, right? So, like the Abdul Razaks of our time, the Jock Callises, somebody who is not express, but he's clever. He won't give you many runs, and he like Liam Plunkett is who I'm thinking. He won't give you many runs. He's not the most attractive or sexy when it comes to the role he has in the team. It's probably quite boring, but he's smart. He
yeah,
knows where to bowl the ball. He gets, he prevents runs, and he's also a bit of a wicket taker because of the pressure he accumulates in onto the
yeah,
opposition, because he knows every batter's weakness, right? He'll pitch it one area each time, nagging the batter. We're missing that kind of bowler right now. That could well be, the like the I don't know, the Irfan Khan Niazis of this world, the Ahmed Jamals of this world. It could be, right?
yeah,
But Hasnain, now I wonder who needs, and somebody needs to, sometimes, you go with four strike bowlers, but you get absolutely tonked in the first 20 overs, and then you need somebody, one of those four fast bowlers, to take on that role, even if it's not that preferred role of containing runs. I look down that and I don't know who that is, and I don't think it's
yeah.
Hasnain. Maybe it's Naseem Shah, maybe it's Shaheen Afridi
Mm.
with his cross seams, I don't know. But that's my only worry is that heading into the Champions Trophy on flat, potentially
Yeah.
lifeless wickets, right? So that's one thing. Yeah,
Yeah, look, I think it's. I mean, yeah, not to belabor the point, but I think they're as good as this team was bowling Australia out twice for 140 and 160. All four of them on a bad day, Pakistan can go for 400 plus, right? So that's the problem, and they're all very capable of having really bad days. So I think I do get your point on that, but let's enjoy it while we can, and I'm sure they won't go with four fast bowlers. They'll have to have a spinner in Pakistani or Asian conditions. So I think yeah, that's one thing to consider. But the other thing, obviously, the impressive point was the batting. Of course, it's easier when you're chasing a small total and you can take your time. As nervous as Sam Ayub and Abdullah Shafiq were in the second ODI, the first few overs, where Sam looked like he was a walking wicket, and they did get lucky a couple of times with a few drop catches. But still, giving solid starts eventually in both the ODIs, it must be good for their confidence. And Sam Ayub, hitting sixes, and that was the most important thing, hitting sixes in Australia and the big grounds, showing that he can do it. I'm sure that will do him a world of confidence. I think
absolutely.
briefly on Kamran Ghulam as well. I think it's only because in the last ODI, I think Pakistan lost the two wickets in the same over. Maybe if there was a bit of a gap between the two wickets, maybe Rizwan could have considered sending Ghulam in at four, to knock off the final 20, 30 runs. But maybe it's just because those two wickets fell in quick succession. Rizwan felt that he needed to step up. But I do think there was a case of sending Ghulam in earlier, just to give him some confidence, and maybe getting a not out to his name, and because the poor guy's played four ODIs and he's only batted once.
Yeah,
So
yeah, concussion substitution as well. That was
exactly.
unfortunate part of his
So
debut. Yeah.
so yeah, I think that's the only thing. But otherwise, look, phenomenal performance. I like to
And
come
let's
on
talk
to.
about Rizwan actually finally bowling. Finally, someone bowls Sam Ayub. Finally, this
Oh
guy's
yeah,
been
yeah, he did
letting
bowl him
go.
3 overs. He did bowl it, which was again, I don't know why Irfan Niazi was there. I mean, the poor guy must be wondering what he needs to do to bowl. But but
And
yeah, I think it
even
was good to
Salman
see.
Aga, the vice
Yeah,
captain of your team.
yeah. Although Samu got reverse swept for six by Maxwell, but I mean it's fine. He still went for a decent economy rate.
A couple of beautiful bowls as well. But yeah,
Yeah, exactly. But a couple of negative points. I mean, it's not really negatives. Well, when I mention these as negatives, it's more the the coverage and the wider the wider the aspects of the series. I think the umpiring was especially the third ODI, some of the wide calls were really, really harsh. I mean,
Absolutely abysmal. Shocking.
uh, fell for Shine a couple of times. Wasim Akram's commentary. Oh, I mean, I'm losing patience with him. Not that it really matters, but I don't know. He can't commentate in a three. He's always like interrupting them. I know we have memes of him. I had a chat with him in the morning, and he's talking about wrist positions, which he always does.
While the
even though
most
the,
important part of the game is going on, he's like, the swing goes
even though
this.
the camera's not on him, like he's talking about, you know, he's like demonstrating my wrist should be like this in that position, whatever. But the amount of time he's like, I don't know, he just doesn't. He's out of sync. He talks in between when other commentators are talking and stuff. But anyways, those are the only two negatives that I picked up from the series. Uh, from a Pakistani perspective, let alone Australia, we not really much to say, to be honest, given that they can say that this was their B team,
Ish.
and that's just how they and that's just how they play. They did do a bit of Pakistan as well, I think, in the field while dropping a lot of catches.
And also the
But
first one there when they were gifting wickets away, right? So
yeah, that's true. That's true. I mean, yeah, I mean, I did kind of say this private days. If Australia really wanted to, they could have won the
they could have won.
the first
I mean,
ODI
they could
by
have
seven
absolutely
wickets
dominated.
with in 45 overs or something. But they just wanted to finish it as soon as possible and lost wickets en route to that.
But that does raise a
But
question, right, for Australia. What is their preferred template in ODI cricket? And the big issue is many teams haven't played ODI cricket in a while, or haven't actually, they've played it
yeah,
but not prioritized it, right?
yeah,
Australia won the World Cup. So clearly they don't have an issue, right? And they won it in similar conditions to where they will play the Champions Trophy. So no issues. It's just what is your chosen template, right? I've always said in World Cups the templates or Champions Trophy, ICC events, it's different to in bilaterals, because in ICC events the scores aren't necessarily always that high. You need maybe the extra anchor like the Labuschagne, in certain parts of India where the ball spins. You won't probably have that in Pakistan, so you can go a bit aggressive. But in bilaterals as well, because of there being less pressure, I think Australia think that they need to be more aggressive. But if they do, then I
yeah,
don't think the team that they put in on paper is the right one. So, it's a difficult question to answer, especially with this whole is Bazball too aggressive or is it the right way? I think every team
yeah,
tries to find the one template that works. And my only point, and I've always said this, is you don't need one template to win. Your template, you must have a couple of templates that you are willing to adapt depending on the match situation.
yeah,
That's my biggest thing, right? If you are chasing 200, you don't need to take those risks. You're not getting an extra bonus point by scoring with getting the runs within 35 overs. Yes, it's more emphatic, but what's most important? Winning. So I just think people can be a bit fixated on a brand of cricket they want to play when you can actually be multifaceted, right? You can be this play like if you gave England the choice of being this one type of playing, or you told England, look, you can be the ambassadors of baseball, but yet you have this extra gear to be able to knock it around and play sensibly, in tricky situations, they would take that. They'll bite your hand off. They'll take that any day, right? I feel some of the what's said in the press is more just defensive, trying to show people that you don't think you have a weakness when you want to be multifaceted as a team. So I just think
yeah,
Australia, part of it maybe they didn't take it as seriously as we would have liked them to,
yeah.
but yeah,
Yeah, I
but
think in
that's
the ICC, I mean, Australia, they'll always show up in the ICC tournament. So,
always
so,
no
so yeah, I
question
think
about
they
it.
will. Yeah, so I'm sure they'll be much more professional. But I do agree, yeah, they probably were a bit like it's a bilateral series, whatever. Let's just get it over with, and
And the
let's
Border
see if we can
Gavaskar
have.
Trophy, which
Yeah,
always takes a big, big
exactly,
filling.
exactly. I mean, should we move on to the other topic that we
What
briefly
can I
mentioned?
say? What can I say?
We mentioned the
So
Champions Trophy a couple of times and what conditions it will be played in. But exactly where it will be is a question mark, as
yeah,
seems to have been the latest.
yeah, and look, it's unfortunate that India have announced not to PCB but to the ICC that they won't travel to Pakistan. Now, I'm going to be as neutral as I possibly can here when I say, look, we must remember that India did this with the Asia Cup, right? And the hybrid model was a fail, right? I'm not saying it because Pakistan didn't do well; it's a fail because it was just logistically crazy. Secondly, we must remember that after that, India was hosting the ODI World Cup and Pakistan went. Despite what happened in the Asia Cup, they went and they wanted assurances that it will be reciprocated in the Champions Trophy. Right now, they didn't 100% get that, but they got it from the ICC in that Champions Trophy will be in Pakistan, and please put cricket first, and we'll put pressure on other boards to do the same. So we did, right? And I know there are questions over the difference in safety levels between India and Pakistan, but I'm not going to get into the geopolitical points there because that's not my place. But what I will say is there were two instances where Pakistan's scheduling had to change from the Sunday to the Saturday twice because of festivals or security risks to the Pakistan team. So despite all that, we were there. So I think I'm disappointed. I'm not surprised. The reason I say I'm not surprised is I think there is a bit of posturing that does happen from both sides, right? Pakistan also for a long time, so we're not traveling to India, we're not traveling to India, and then they eventually did. So I have a bit of hope that in the back channel negotiations, India will come, whether it's staying the night in Pakistan or having to travel from from Amritsar. I don't know, but at this point in time, I think I agree with Mohsin Naqvi's position that of not accepting a hybrid model, and I think Pakistan need to be strong here, and Pakistan
Yeah.
need to say that if we are forced into accepting a hybrid model, then I think Pakistan should not play the Champions Trophy because I know we bring in less money, right? I know it ends up being a lot of that, but there is an element of morality and justice into a lot of these
Yeah.
things. And if Pakistan is safe for a lot of other countries, many of whose players don't look anywhere like Pakistanis, so stand out more in the crowd, then I think the argument starts falling on deaf ears.
Yeah. No, yeah, I think from a fan's point of view, I mean, that's probably not even a consideration, right? I agree with you. And look, it's all about the precedents, right? You look at 1996, 2003. I think Australia didn't travel to Sri Lanka. West Indies didn't travel to Sri Lanka in 96. 2003, a bunch of teams didn't travel to Zimbabwe, I think, and they had to forfeit their games, right? So if that's the model, then fine, then that's what it should be. And India should, if they don't want
India
to come,
forfeits their
then
games and doesn't show up for the Champions Trophy.
or
If that's
or you replace them with Sri Lanka or West Indies or whatever,
yeah,
right?
yeah.
That should be the base case for Pakistan. Then fine, if you're not coming, then you don't get to play. Now, obviously, we all know that's what should happen if India don't come. I think that's probably not what's going to happen because at the end of the day, money talks and
And it would have been had another if another team was instead of India, right? If it was Sri Lanka who didn't want to come to
oh
Pakistan,
yeah,
that's
of
different,
course, of course. Or if
right?
Pakistan refused to go last year to India, then they would have just had to forfeit all their games, right?
True, but I
So
think Pakistan still brings in a lot of numbers with audience and stuff, right? So I think that's why ICC pushed really hard to get
yeah,
Pakistan to come. So it would have
yeah.
still gone ahead, but they would have been
Yeah.
like last minute
But
negotiations.
here's
And
here's a very it's a very fine point, but it's a very interesting point as well. I was watching the Australia Pakistan coverage, obviously, and then this is like really random times. 'Cause it's really early mornings in Pakistan, and so you don't get a lot of viewership coverage. But if you looked at the sponsorship around the ground and stuff, it was a lot of it was Pakistani brands, right? So maybe they're trying to posture that we'll try and get together and see if we can um, get some more money in for the Champions Trophy. I don't know, but it was weird to see. I mean, it happens, in India games all the time. We have Indian brands and sponsors everywhere in the world. But it's the first time I've seen in Australia that you've had like all these Pakistani brands having their
yeah,
adverts in the ground and stuff,
interesting
which was
point.
interesting to see. Which was interesting to see. So I don't know. Maybe they're trying to find a way to get it to work financially, and if they feel like they're financially sorted and the ICC gets that comfort, then yeah, they can maybe tell India to make a decision one way or the other. But I do agree. If it's if they do go with a hybrid model, then it shouldn't work. Pakistan shouldn't play. Like to be honest, if they're trying to move the Champions Trophy outside Pakistan, I think that's just not going to work. Whether it's a hybrid model or whatever they do, it shouldn't work. And they should, in any case, whatever happens, they should have the final in Karachi, Lahore, or whatever wherever they want it.
Yeah,
But they
absolutely.
should,
And
they should
also, I mean, they should obviously compensate Pakistan for all the
yeah.
funds that have gone into.
Yeah.
preparing for the Champions Trophy.
Yeah.
But
And yeah, if you want to, not again, not to get into the politics of it, but if you want to take a political position on it, then you should bear the consequences and forfeit your games. Then, right? Just don't come. End of story.
yeah, look, I agree. I agree. Look, but look, ultimately, I'm still hopeful that this is just a starting position. As always, with these, you always start or show yourself to be starting from a position of strength. A bit of posturing that happens in all fields between India and Pakistan. India's
Yeah.
foreign minister did eventually travel to Pakistan. Let's not forget, right, for some of the summits that happened recently. So I'm a big believer that posturing and back channel, in all these things, back channel is probably way more important. Right? I mean, you had the UN General Assembly where Pakistan and India say whatever they want to say, but then a month later you had India's foreign minister in Pakistan, for example, right? So these things happen, and I'm
Yeah.
hoping that eventually they will reach an agreement behind closed doors that has India in Pakistan, or perhaps more likely travel from Amritsar, which I do think
Yeah.
is a bit crazy and a bit much, right? Because let's
Yeah.
be honest here, you know, you look just like Pakistanis. There is massive support for Indian
Oh
cricketers
yeah.
in Pakistan. They will get full security just like the others will. Pakistan, so all teams have come to Pakistan since India have come to Pakistan in the past, so it's not like they've never done it. So let's be honest here, right? In fact, I think
Yeah.
Pakistan is safer now than many of the times that they did come in the mid 2000s, right? I remember 2006 they came. Things were starting to get a
Yeah.
bit racy, right? So I think it's far safer now. So I'm hoping that India will even stay in Pakistan. And look, Pakistan, to their credit, have tried to
Mm.
make sure all India's games are in Lahore,
Okay.
right?
Yeah.
And Pakistan asked this for the ODI World Cup. Now I know an ODI World Cup
Mm.
is different, and the format of that World Cup, where every team plays every other team, made it
Yeah.
quite difficult for Pakistan to base themselves in one place. So and India did try their best to limit how much they travel. But so they're getting Lahore, which is closest to India. Like, come on,
Yeah.
come
Look,
on.
I think at the end of it, it's not it's not based on you know security and stuff. I think that's not the issue. I think it's a bit more personal in their point of view, right? So I think that's where it gets to. Where it's more of a. I mean, I don't want to get into that, but
Yeah, I know.
it's
I
not to do with
understand.
the
I
general
understand.
security of the situation. It's a bit more on the it's a bit more personal to them, or that's what they will
Fair
say
point. Very
rather
good point.
than so. But yeah, if that's how they feel, then that's how they feel. You can't change that, and Pakistan shouldn't bend over backwards to change that. If they don't come, then they don't come. That's it. And all Pakistan can do is keep winning in Australia against Australia and Australian other teams, so that at least and to be honest, that does make a big difference. If you're winning and you're doing well, then teams
Completely.
want to play against you, right?
Completely agree. Completely agree. And I think, look, we've criticized Ramiz Raja a lot in recent past, but I think Ramiz Raja had this thing, right? When New Zealand
Yeah,
didn't come to Pakistan based on some intelligence in 2021, Ramiz Raja said the best way to respond to that is on the field. On the field.
yeah,
And if you establish yourself, and that's when Pakistan had a bit of a short peak, because and it really does matter. But ultimately, when these things happen, politics gets in the way. Cricket
yeah.
is the loser, right? So let's hope that it ends up being a more positive conclusion to this whole fiasco, and two, even if it's not, as you say, let cricket talk.
Yeah.
I think that's
All
a good
right.
way to end.
Yeah.
Right. All right. Well, I'll see you soon, Zai.
All right. Thank you for watching.
Thank you.